Hey, what's going on, y'all? Big Sarge, host of the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast and the new live show. Now, I don't have the schedule set just yet, so I'm still getting this thing down together, but I'm going to try to make sure that I do it at 10 a.m. on the days that I do it. And so sometimes it'll go from 10 to 12, sometimes it'll go from 10 to 10:45. It just depends. But I'm going to try to make sure that every day that I do this, at least 3 times a week, that I will be on at 10 a.m. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end and Instagram. Make sure you are following me on Facebook at Big Sarge. And make sure you are subscribe to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast and the YouTube channel at Big Sarge Media. All right. On today, I have none other than, man. So as I'm still building this thing out, right? As I'm still building out, everything, I want to make sure that I got my board together, but I don't have my sounds together just yet. My wife is just not getting over COVID. Thank God she feels better. But I don't have my board down because I would have loved to, introduce you with some. Hey, look, before I even tell the people who you are, make sure show them what you got on.
Hey, I mean, for people that's already know me, you already know what it is, man. You already know. Like, that's not a surprise.
I have none other than Mr. Cody M. Davis, who is the beat writer for the Houston Rockets for Sports Illustrated. And also, he does some other things on the side too for that other team on the other side. But we'll talk about that. I'll make sure that we talk about that. I see you got the hat on today, and I'll make sure that you plug that podcast before we end. But you know me, right? On today, I definitely want to jump into, you know what? If teams were a person, the Houston Rockets and the Houston Texans would be twins. And they would be identical twins, Cody. Like, they would be identical twins. And so I had to have you on, man, not only because you cover the Houston Rockets, but you're also an NBA fan. Like, I think that after Michael Jackson, NBA is your second love, and I mean, aside from your beautiful wife, but I'm talking about the things that you love on the side. Like, if you got side pieces, it'll be Michael Jackson and the NBA. Now, like, your wealth of knowledge when it comes to the NBA is immaculate. So I want to jump right into it, Cody. The Houston Rockets, it is the All-Star break now. The NBA has currently went into their All-Star break. They have the All-Star game this weekend. They have the skills competition, the dunk contest, the three-point contest. So they're officially into their NBA break. The first half of the season is done now. The Houston Rockets are currently, and I feel like a broken record. I feel like I've said this. This is the third year in a row that I've said this. The Houston Texans are Houston Texans.
Identical twins.
Identical twins, just like I said. The Houston Rockets are the worst team in the NBA. Their record is 13-45. Cody, can you just give me your overall view of what you've seen from this team in the first half?
I feel like the word disappointment is an understatement because, look, going into the season, I knew this team wasn't going to compete for a championship. I knew this wasn't going to be a playoff caliber team, but Sarge, you and I talked about this on several occasions on a variety of podcasts and stuff. If everything went right with this team, you can see them competing for a play-in spot. Not saying that they was going to make it, not saying that there was going to be a top 10 team, but it's funny that we're having this conversation now because we are 12 hours removed from when the Houston Rockets lost 133-96 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the reason why I say it's funny that we're talking about this now, because going into the All-Star break, the Oklahoma City Thunder are currently 10th in the Western Conference with a record, I believe, of 28-29 or 28-30 or whatever the case might be.
The Thunder?
Yeah, the Thunder.
Okay, I'm gonna give you
That
their
is
record is 28 and 29. You're correct.
28-29. That is what I picture the Houston Rockets being this season, because it doesn't make sense for this team to have the talent that they have. It doesn't make sense for this team to have the coaches that they have, including Steven Silas. I know a lot of people don't like Steven Silas as of right now, but say what you want about that man. People from LeBron James, Steph, Luka, Baron Davis, Kemba Walker have all credited him for laying the foundation to their careers. And once again, I know LeBron and Steph on different levels, but you cannot take away from the fact that every time you talk about who was around them as rookies, who kind of helped them set up the foundation, they always talked about Steven Silas a lot. You know what you got in John Lucas. There's Ryan Hollins on the not Ryan Hollins, Lionel Hollins on the coaching staff that was going to improve this defense. There's so much talks about flexibility of how Raphael Stone can build this roster and the pieces that he can add throughout the season. But
Yeah.
yet here we are at the All-Star break, and they're 13 and 45, and it really doesn't make sense why this team is so bad. And
Wait,
once again,
let me stop you right there. Let me ask you a question. When you look at that record, though, when you look at that record, can you see how many games? And I want to ask you about Kevin Porter Jr. a little bit later on, but how many games? Just looking at their record now at 13 and 45. You said that earlier about them looking like you thought that they would have similar record to what Oklahoma City has. Right. So you imagine them having at least 20 to 22 wins at this point? Because I know, that Vegas had them at 23 and a half. And I think Raphael Stone said that he'd be surprised if this team won 25 games this year. So even at this point in time, you had them winning at least 20 plus games at the All-Star break.
yeah, because once again, the talent was there. When you take a look at the promise that we saw from Jalen Green in the second half of last season, from Kevin Porter Jr. more so in the second half of last season, people like Alperen Şengün, a lot of us, when we looked at our analysis from last season and looked at some of the games that they lost, especially during the back half of last season, a lot of us talked about, oh man, if they just had better players on the defensive side of the ball. You look at what they added in the draft in Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason, two guys that have shown promise on the defensive side of the ball. It's like, okay, if you put all this together, there's no way in hell this team should still be one of, if not the worst team in the league. And
Wait,
once
hold
again,
on.
we're still here.
Wait, hold on though. So with that being said too, yes, I understand exactly what you said. Yes, I feel like the Houston Rockets are talented. But just like we both of us was right there when I asked Coach Silas after practice, I was like, do you feel like you're coaching a team that should be juniors and seniors in college right now? So although we can see the talent, we can see the potential future, can we give them a pass because of the fact that they're so young and they don't have any veterans on the team?
I would say no to a certain extent, only because look what Oklahoma City doing. And they're
Oklahoma
doing
City
it with
got
their
SGA though.
yeah, they got SGA, but at the same time, look, they're still one of the youngest teams in the league. And not only that, you also got to consider that they're playing without their number 2 overall pick in this year's draft in Chet. So
But they
I
got an
just don't.
all-star though, Cody.
They got an
Got an
all-star
all-star
that took
SGA.
a leap. And that's what I was going to get at. When you take a look at where the Houston Rockets are as of right now, a lot of the young players that we wanted to see take that second-year leap, i.e. Jalen Green, and of course, it's no disrespect to him, he has taken somewhat of a leap, but at the same time, it's not enough to really make this team better. And at this point, I'm looking at this Rockets rebuild, and I go back to what took place on Wednesday against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think I can honestly say that this might be the worst season of this rebuild, because in the first year, you had a lot going on with the whole James Harden thing. People wanted out. There was the COVID season. What was the record? They had like what? About 50 different starting lineups every single game. So
Yeah.
you gave them a pass. You look at last season, you were starting to lay the groundwork, the foundation. That was KPJ's first full season as a point guard. You look at Alpi, you look at Jalen Green, that was their first season as rookies. You had, somewhat bought in, but someone bought out Christian Wood. And it was just like, okay, we can see the foundation there. You just got to clean it up and just fix a lot of things. a lot of the excuses that I've seen and that I would like to give the Houston Rockets over the last 2 seasons, I feel like I can't really give them that this year because, like I keep mentioning, there is no excuse as to why this team is that bad. Once again, I'm not saying that I came into this season with playoffs expectations or, saying without a shadow of doubt they was going to be a play-in tournament team. However, I said if everything goes right, I could see them competing for that spot, but there is no way in hell they should be 13-45 at the All-Star break. It's getting to the point where, and it's funny that you said that they're twins of the Houston Texans because they are. It's getting to the point like I was last year covering the Houston Texans where a lot of those games just became unwatchable and you was sitting there watching it only because it's your job.
Yes. So, but with that being said, though, Cody, and I honestly and truly had the Rockets competing for a play-in spot this year, only because, and we'll get to this a little bit later on, but only because like I knew that the NBA is going to be exactly what it is right now, down. Like the NBA, it's like the NBA as a whole is a terrible watch. Like now that football season is over, it's almost like, damn, I gotta watch the NBA. I gotta watch the NBA. Like it used to be where, all right, man, the Super Bowl is over. Let me watch the NBA. Some people feel that way, but I'm ready for baseball season to start, so I can get past watching the NBA. But when it comes to the Houston Rockets, like I said, I had them as a play-in team. I thought that they could compete for a play-in spot only based off of what I seen towards the end of the year. But Cody, I look at it from a different perspective. I look at it as you put it like this, like Jalen just turned 21. Jalen just turned 21. Alpi is what, 20 years old, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And Jabari is 19, right? So at one point you had three people in your starting lineup who who couldn't legally drink, right? They could not legally buy an alcoholic beverage. And this is who you want to go out and compete against the veteran teams that they played against. I remember now when they started out their season, 13 out of their first 15 games or something like that was on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a young team, and you got a teenager that's starting, and you have no veteran presence. And don't get me wrong, I like Eric Gordon. I like Eric Gordon as a basketball player. I like Eric Gordon as a person. I don't like Eric. I did not like Eric Gordon as a veteran for that locker room because he wasn't vocal enough, and he was too passive aggressive at times. And what I mean by passive aggressive at times is that it didn't seem like he was vocal enough in the locker room, but when he got in front of a microphone, he took his shots. See what
Oh
I'm saying?
yeah.
You take your shots. So I did not like that. But I'm looking at a team, Cody, that was in disarray for the first 2 years. Finally, this is the first time in a long time that Coach Silas has had before everything started happening, had consistent lineups. When he had consistent lineups and those guys were playing together on a consistent basis, you could see some glimmer of hope. You could see, the light at the end of the tunnel that's way down on the other side. Like we're in Houston, the tunnel may not end till Austin, but you can still kind of see it from a distance. Like, is that that's a little bit of hope, right? And you can see that team started to gel together. Once they learned each other's spots, they started to play a little together. Now, for those of y'all who know me and those of y'all who follow me, Big Sarge ain't the one that's gonna come on and sugarcoat nothing. I could see it. I could see the glimmer of hope, but I could also see some selfishness in Jalen Green that hindered a lot of that progress on certain nights. And don't get me wrong, I think that Jalen Green is an amazing talent. I think that he's going to be an amazing talent. Nobody sung Jalen Green's praises louder than I did last season and coming into this season. But I don't like the ball getting stuck with Jalen Green sometimes. Sometimes the ball gets stuck in his hands, or it gets stuck in that 1-2 action between him and Alpi, and now you find Jabari Smith out on the island, not getting the ball. So with that being said, I just have to say that I'm disappointed in what their record is, but I also can see it from the other side.
I hear all of that. And the one thing that really gets me like frustrated the most about this team. We could talk about them being young. We could talk about them being a veteran. By the way, I don't believe that Raphael Stone has done a good job orchestrating this team. Um, and I know there's a lot of fans out there. Oh my God, there's so much stuff to have flexibility in the draft, and there's so much capital. The Rockets going to fall into in the offseason. Over the past week, the Houston Rockets had to buy out 3 veterans. Yeah. And it's to the point now, our colleague Michael Shapiro did an interview with Kenny Smith, and Kenny Smith came out and said that people are looking at the Rockets as one of the worst teams in professional sports. So with all that being said, I don't know how Raphael Stone is going to be able to rebuild this team in the offseason with the capital that he has, because I don't think Houston is a free agency destination. And now you're going to be stuck in a situation like you were when you signed Daniel Tice, to where you need a veteran, you're going to overpay him, and he doesn't fit with your team, and then you're still going to be stuck at square one. I just wanted to get that off my chest. However, so I get all the fact that
whoa. Let's not speed past that, because one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was about Raphael Stone. And so since you did bring him up and you did say what you say, I don't want to, and I'm not looking for a politically correct way to say this. I'm trying to actually get my words together so I can get this out, because it's different than the question that I have for you. So, in your opinion, the Rockets did not win at the trade deadline, even though that they were able to move up in, as far as draft picks were concerned, and able to move Eric Gordon.
No, because like I mentioned, you moved off from the one veteran that you had. Say what you want, whether you liked him as a vocal veteran or not. That was your lone veteran on the team. He's gone, and not only was he your lone veteran on your team, he was arguably your third best player on.
He was your best shooter.
Occasions, and he's your best shooter. And
not a Gary Bird here.
I know, right? And I take a look at how the Rockets have played without him over these last couple of games. I believe our colleague, who was it, Spo, that came out and said over the past 2 seasons, there were 2 and 40 without Eric Gordon in the lineup, which is probably 2 and 43 now without Eric Gordon in the lineup. And then I understand the promise and the hope of flexibility and all this draft capital and stuff. But at the end of the day, and look, I look at Raphael Stone similar to the way I look at Nick Caserio. Like, they do a damn good job in the draft. Like,
yes,
both of those general managers have done a really good job drafting the players. And kudos to both of those guys, because they came into situations, both franchises was in disarray. One was a little bit more disarray than the other, given what their star quarterback was putting them through. But I give them credit as a scout, as an eye for talent. They can draft. Exactly. But in terms of, and I think Caserio case, and I don't want to, turn this into Texans, but when I talk about the rebuilds, I can't help but to compare these two. I think Caserio is going to be in a better situation because of the whole DeMeco Ryans coaching staff, and he finally has some credibility to the Houston Texans. I think he'd be better off in free agency this year. However, in terms of the Houston Rockets, once again, look at what a lot of players and a lot of, unnamed general managers had to say about this organization over the last couple of years. And I'm looking at that capital. I'm looking at the pay that they're going to have in the offseason. Yes, you're going to have the most money to spend out of anybody in free agency. But once again, who is going to want to come to Houston? Yes, you can go out and bank on this lottery pick and trade up and get back into the lottery and get this young prospect in the draft. But at the end of the day, all you're going to do is just make your team younger and younger and younger. And the only thing I don't like about the so-called let's continue to tank and build through the draft and get all this young talent, at some point, the talent that you're going to have is going to get stagnant, and it's going to hinder the developments of other guys that you already have on your team. Because let's say, for example, that they do go out and get Scoot Henderson, which I think is a phenomenal talent. What position does he play, Sarge?
Point guard.
So what is that going to do for the development and stuff of Kevin Porter Jr.? And you can say, well, he can play off ball. Okay, I get that. You put him in a backcourt with KPJ. What is that going to do to the development of Jalen Green? Are you going to try to force Jalen to now be more of a point guard than a shooting guard when you already damn near struggle with that with KPJ? And it's finally looking like he's seen the light of day. Like,
well, hold on, Cody. And here's the thing too, because I agree with everything that you're saying. I don't like it. I don't like it because, let's just say from a fan's perspective, I'm gonna take my media hat off and put on my fan hat, right? From a fan's perspective, you're putting out a horrible product, but you're still asking the fans to show up and support. Now,
and that's another thing.
You keep putting all of this young talent on the floor. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the rebuild of the Oklahoma City Thunder now that you mentioned that, because at one point when they had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and then you could throw in Serge Ibaka, you can even throw in Steven Adams in there, but they had a team. And as soon as Sam Presti tore that team apart, look how long it took them to get back to some sort of relevancy. And they were only able to get back to that sort of relevancy because they have an all-star right now that's averaging 30 points a game. I mean, he's become look, he the rocket killer too. SGA. But with that being said, Cody, I agree with everything that you said. And yes, they mirror each other so much when it comes to the Houston Texans and the Houston Rockets. My issue and my problem is that exactly the same thing that you have. Like, you're going to keep putting this young talent on and keep putting this young talent on and keep putting this young talent on. And then when the other talent starts to develop, you're still going to be in a situation where you're still going to be getting young talent. And so at some point you got to say, hey, enough is enough. And we got to let this thing develop. But if you keep tanking, because let's just say, like you said, let's just say they get Scoot or they get Victor Wembanyama next year, right? So now how many young players do you have on the floor? Also, the problem that you do have, and like I said, we'll talk about KPJ in just a second, but the problem that you do have is if you do draft Scoot Henderson, right, you put him at the point guard. So now you got him at the point, you got Jalen at the 2. You got a guy right now that is playing his ass off in KJ Martin at the 3. So what are you going to do? Send him back to the bench and put KPJ? Because you can't put KPJ on the bench. You can play him at the 3 position, but if you play him at the 3 position, now look at what you've done to KJ Martin, and how are you, hindering him?
Exactly. And then even if you say, oh, well, you just bump KJ Martin to the 4, then what are you going to do at 5 with Jabari Smith and LP? You damn sure can't put neither one of them off the bench. So how does that make sense?
So if I'm the Houston Rockets, right, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't mind saying this, Cody, you know me. Listen, if I am the Houston Rockets, you know what I'm doing with some of those draft picks? I'm trying to see a draft pick and maybe a player or 2. I'm calling the Orlando Magic and asking them, hey, what is it gonna take for me if I'm already in the point guard mode and I know that I'm gonna put KJ on the bench and move KPJ to the 3? And side note, like, at what point did Raphael Stone look at KPJ and say, "Here's my new James Harden"? Don't get me wrong, I know he can do it, but it took time to develop that, and in an offensive system where James was the focal point. When you look at that Houston Rockets team, you can't say that KPJ is the focal point because you have Jalen, right? And so when James was here, and they're left-handed, they both can score, they both can, they both can get to the rack. KPJ doesn't shoot the 3 as well as James does at this point in his career. But say now you've tried to develop him into a point guard, now you got to move him to the 3. Okay, so you put him at the 3. You put KJ Martin on the bench. I'm going to get Jalen Suggs. I'm going to ask the Orlando Magic, hey, what is it going to take for me to get Jalen Suggs? Or if I can't get Jalen Suggs, I'm going to digress back to something that we were talking about earlier about the trade deadline of Raphael Stone. Why in the hell couldn't you go out and get a rental point guard for the rest of the season? Why couldn't you get a rental point guard for the rest of the season, especially with the health concerns of KPJ, who is by far your best ball handler? You got KPJ, and then you got Jayshawn Tate. Alpy's not a good ball handler. I cringe every time I see Alpy bring the ball up the court. Jabari can, but Jabari's not. Jalen is not. These are guys that play well without the ball without having to bring the ball up or having to do the point guard duties. You even take away from Jayshawn Tate's strength when you make him play the point guard position and handle the ball. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Cody, but I just had to get that out because I'm so damn confused right now with what Raphael Stone is doing. And hey, look, I understand it. I'm not in the Rockets front office. So it's not for him to convey to me. But what I am is I'm a media member and I'm an NBA fan. So with that being said, I'm watching this and I'm saying to myself, bro, I don't know where you're going.
Yeah,
It's like you're spinning in a circle.
Exactly. And I think the most frustrating part to me about this, and I thought about this a lot, Wednesday watching them lose to the Thunder, and it's not the fact that they're losing. Like last year they was losing, but they was competing. They gave effort, and it's like, oh, they're losing because the experience or whatever the case you want to call it. But the one thing that frustrates me the most about how bad the season has been, I know the first
293 points in 2 games. Sorry.
Well, yeah, that too. That's when Steven Silas really lost his mind. But screaming and hollering at us, I'm like, we didn't give up 293 points. But when I look at this season, I look at the first 20 games. What was it? Like 15 was on the road. Okay, that's bad. Then you take a look at what transpired after Christmas. 15-game losing streak, 7-game losing streak at the time of this recording. And I believe they only won 3 or 4 games in between. The one thing that frustrates me the most about this Rocket season, I go back to this 11-game stretch that they had towards the end of November, beginning of December. And they were 7-3, 7-4, whatever the case might be. And it started in that game against the Atlanta Hawks, and their last victory of that stretch ended against the Phoenix Suns, who at the time was depleted, but it was still a victory was a victory. And I go back to that moment, and I've asked this on several occasions, and I still don't think I'm getting the right answer. And maybe this is one of those questions that I might have to wait until when we do our exit interviews with the players and the coaching staff. I want to know what the hell happened after that game, because they was looking like a team that was starting to take the turn and started to take the development and the steps that we wanted to see this team take. Like I mentioned, it was 11-game stretch that was like 7-4, and they beat some very good quality teams. And of course, the biggest game that I go to was the game when they beat the Milwaukee Bucks, and it was just like that game gave the definition on what the Houston Rockets should have been night in and night out. I understand that they wasn't going to win every single one of those games, but you take a look at the fact how Kevin Porter Jr. was moving the ball, how they played through Alperen, how in the fourth quarter when they was down by 6, how Jalen Green took over, how Jabari Smith Jr. gave you great production on both ends of the court. But of course, it was his defense, the production that you got off the bench from guys like KJ Martin, Tari Eason. Like everything about that game was the definition of what the Houston Rockets should have been throughout this season. And I don't know how you go from that to where we are as we sit here at the time of this recording at 10:30 on February 16th, 2023. And we're sitting here, we're like, what is the long-term goal for this organization just for the remainder, the last 24 games? Like, Sarge, you know me, I really at a loss of words when I say, please make this make sense. And I just want this to be an opportunity where somebody, I don't care if you're a fan, a colleague in the media, Raphael Stone, yourself, I just want you to make this make sense to me, because once again, the talent, the coaching, it's like everything is there, but something is holding this team back in order for them to be this bad. 13-45.
Well,
come
Cody,
on, man.
24 games left. What do you think that the record is going to be by in the last 24 games? What do you think the record will be?
At this point,
8-16. Can you say 8-16?
I don't even see 8 wins. I'm sorry. That takes a lot for me to say it, because as my co-host John Hickman loved to say, I'm the most optimistic person you might ever meet. I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Just give me a number. So
because they got 13 right now. There's 24 left.
Yes,
right after the All-Star break, you got Golden State. I know they don't have Steph, but it's still Portland. Golden State. You got Portland. There's still 2 games against LeBron, not the Lakers, but LeBron. There's another game against Boston.
So how many wins do you think they'll have?
I say they'll beat the Spurs twice because there's two more games against the Spurs. Um,
Come on.
I say maybe 5, and
So
that's the
let's just say,
ceiling.
okay. So that's 5-19 in the 24 games. So that's 4, 6. So that leaves them at 18-64, right? For the season. These that's an improvement for the 15 games they won last year, correct? 'Cause they only won
No,
15 games last year, right?
no, they won 20 games last year, I
Oh,
believe.
20 games. They won 15 the year prior.
Yeah, and that was
Okay,
the
so
COVID season.
so that's 20. So
Yeah,
hold
they
on.
was 20 and 62 last year.
Okay, so that's and then the year before that, they only won 15 games, correct?
Yeah, the year before that,
So now,
they were 17 wins. And that
okay,
was the
so
COVID lockout season. They were 17 and 55.
so the reason why I ask you that is that's 55 combined wins in 3 seasons for Steven Silas. Does he make it to another year, Cody? This is the end of his contract, I know, but get does he get a contract extension, or do they just look for another coach? And look,
Um,
hold on. You notice how my tone changed because like I like Coach Silas, but I also understand that this is a business.
Yeah,
So
I understand it's a business too, man, and I don't like calling for people jobs. I really don't. And I'm gonna keep the same energy that I kept when we had these same conversations about David Culley, when we had these same conversations about Lovie Smith, when we had these same conversations about Pep Hamilton as the offensive coordinator. For me, it's hard for me to say that I still feel like Steven Silas's grade is still incomplete because we know the story, what he was supposed to coach, what happened, and all this other stuff. But for me, I still don't think he had the right opportunity to really showcase what he can do
I agree.
as a coach. Like, I'm sorry, that's just me. And
Put in a very bad situation,
yeah,
Cody.
yeah, and like I said, we're not about to go through the whole storyline because everybody know the storyline as of right now. And then, like I said, I'm keeping the same energy, just like I do when I cover this team up here. When I look at coaches and coordinators being in a bad situation for the Texans, I'm looking at it the same way for the Rockets, and it all goes back to the general manager. And like I mentioned earlier, yes, they have done a damn good job with their draft. With their draft selections. That I mean, hell, I would give Nick Casario a just what he was able to do in the 2021 draft class when his first pick didn't come until was it 69, 68 with
For
Davis
sure.
Mills. Like he still did okay in that draft. But in terms of giving these coaches, and of course, for the Rockets case, as for Stone, giving Steven Silas enough talent to really go out there and give him a true 82 game season to showcase what he can do as a head coach, I still have not seen it. I mean, just take it like as of right now, this man has no veterans as of right now that he can lean on. And people used to laugh at me throughout the offseason when I used to be like, man, I understand for development and rotational purpose, you need to move on from Eric Gordon. But at the same time, it's important for the Rockets to keep Gordon because you need veterans on the team. And people used to laugh at me, and now we're starting to see the effects of how bad this team can be. I mean, Sarge, you asked the question, I believe it was like a week ago. You asked Steven Silas about, coaching such a young team, and he said the game against the Thunder 2 weeks ago, they looked on the starting lineup and the Houston Cougars, Calvin Sampson team had an older lineup than what Steven Silas and his staff had to put out there on the floor in Oklahoma City in the National Basketball Association. That
Hey,
is bad.
do you see what Amy Taylor said? The problem, I'm going to bring her comment back up. The problem with looking for another coach is no one wants to come in and babysit kids. He's the
That
only
is
one that
right.
has the patience for it. I'm sure the organization has looked by who is really accepting. So, and that's true. Like you put him in you put him in a situation to whereas, this is not what he expected. And like you said, we don't have to rehash everything that went on in the 3 years that he's been here. You know what? Side note, You remember when President Obama first got in the office? And he looked like a spry young man. You know, he looked young and
Yeah.
vibrant. And
Oh
then after
yeah.
that first term, you see how old he looked. Then after that second term, how old he really looked. That's how Coach Silas seems to me. Like Coach Silas came in, and it was just this like spry young man who was vibrant and this. And now you look at him, and he just be like, "Man, these damn kids getting on my nerves." Because it's almost like he's a father at home with his kids, and then he has to come and be a father in the locker room with grown millionaires. And I don't want to say, let
Yeah.
me tell you, not grown men, but millionaires who are able to make their own decisions. Like, and it's just crazy. You know, you can't institute a curfew for these guys because they're millionaires and they're going to do what they want to do. But with that being said, Cody, and I agree with everything you said. I don't think that Coach Silas is going to make it, and I don't feel like he's going to make it, and it's going to bother me. Oh, as not as a media member, because as a media member, I'm going to write whatever I have to write, and I'm going to still cover this team. So it's not going to affect me personally, but from a fan's perspective, from the outside looking in, I'm going to say that this is really bad because even if these last 3 years and what they've done. Now somebody else is going to come in, and if the Rockets turn this thing around in 2 years, they're not going to give Coach Silas the credit. They're going to give whatever coach is here, and then everybody's going to badmouth the coach, you know, what he's done. But when he's done the best that he could with what he has, you know, I always use the example of there's no possible way that you can make spaghetti without the noodles. Like, you just give me sauce and cheese and bell pepper, whatever you put in your spaghetti, and then I put all that, and they be like, "What you call this again?" No, this spaghetti. Well, where are the noodles? No. This is a different type of spaghetti. It's spaghetti. Just think you got the noodles. So, with that being said, with him not having everything that he needs to make the spaghetti, then it's terrible because when the next coach shows up, they're going to give him an abundance of noodles, right? And it's always going to be that one ingredient missing. And Steven Silas should be able to say, "Hey, if I had them damn noodles, I'd have been able to make this type of spaghetti too." Now, I asked you that question, right? I asked you the question about will Coach Silas make it because there's rumors, right? There's rumors that James Harden wants to come back to Houston, right? On Monday, I heard that he avoided the media because he didn't want to talk about Houston. He didn't want to talk about the possibility of coming back to Houston. Some of our colleagues are saying, "Hey, look at how James is playing. He should come back to Houston." And who wouldn't want to have him in Houston? And I said, "Well, where are the shooters that you're going to put around him like he has in Philly? And where is the Joel Embiid? Because if you're telling me that Şengün is going to be the Joel Embiid, then okay, I'll buy in." Or like damn sure can't tell me Usman Garuba gonna be it. So unless he's bringing MB with him, then no. But the reason why I brought up Coach Silas and the reason why I brought up James Harden is because I don't want James Harden back in Houston. And if I'm the Houston organization, I don't want James Harden back because you specifically said you didn't want to be here. And we helped you facilitate you getting your way out of here. And now you want to come back. Well, what are you going to come back and do, James? You are the man in Houston. Even though you don't even play for you've played for two other teams since you've left Houston, and you're still the man in Houston. So you want me to let you come back into my locker room and corrupt my young players? And what I mean by corrupt my young players is once you come back, James, you're still going to have the attitude and the mindset that you're James Harden, and this is my city. This is my city. This is my team. I built the Toyota Center. This mine. All of this, everything up in here. This is me.
Nah, say he upgraded the Toyota Center because you know T-Mac and y'all actually built the Toyota Center, but he upgraded the Toyota Center. Come on now, Toyota Center been around for like 20 years now.
Right.
he put in the flat screen TVs and whatever guy Kiati be introducing before the game. You know, you can like order your food and drinks from your phone, and you can just walk. See, that is what James Harden installed, but T-Mac and y'all built the Toyota Center.
That's true. James just made the improvements.
Yeah, made the he brought Toyota Center into 2023. But look,
Do you want James Harden back?
no. Look, to say to watch decent basketball again, sure. But once again, I'm confused by what is the ultimate goal for this organization. The reason why I don't want James Harden back is because when next year starts, he's going to be 34 years old. So you bring him back on, let's say, a 4-5 year deal, max contract. Okay. So that puts him out 38, 39 by the time that contract is over with. Within those 5 years, and keep in mind, James Harden is no longer the guy who can, which is my favorite James Harden. You can stay up all night. You know how I love when people get arrogant. I love it. I feel like when you get to a certain level, you know, you do what you want. You stay up all night, and then you show up against Orlando Magic and drop a 60-point triple-double. Like, you know what? Fine. Do what you want to do. Okay, I understand.
You can meet the team in another city.
Yeah, you go ahead and meet the team. You know what? Hey, we got a West Coast road trip. Even though we don't play the Lakers and we ain't scheduled to play in Los Angeles until Friday, you know what? We can leave on Monday. We'll just, travel to our next destination in between. I love arrogance. I can't lie. I can't lie. It's probably the reason why God hasn't blessed me to be in the NBA, because I probably lose my mind. But with all that being said, James is no longer that player. You also got to take into consideration, what are you bringing James Harden back for? If the ultimate goal is to, let's say, win a championship in the next 5 years or so, I don't think that's going to happen with James. And by the way, I know people are going to hear that statement, oh man, James Harden is still really good. Yes, James Harden is still really good. But that's the thing.
He's good. Not really good. He's good.
10 years ago, in that first stint in Houston,
he was great.
He was great, phenomenal, damn good, and everything else you wanted to use to describe that man from, 2012 to like 2019, 2020. Well, 2021, that's at the end of the season. End of his tenure here in Houston. But at the same time, James is no longer that player. So if you bring him back, and keep in mind, James didn't win with Dwight, didn't win with Chris Paul, didn't win with Russell Westbrook, didn't win with KD and Kyrie. I'm hoping that he wins with Joel Embiid, because I really do like that pairing.
What with Joel Embiid? Not a championship, right?
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm hoping that he wins a championship. I'm saying win, like he didn't win no championship with those other players that he played with.
He's not gonna win one with Embiid either.
Like I said, I'm hoping. I think it's gonna take a lot of luck on the 76ers side, because once again, Boston, the fact that they took Giannis Antetokounmpo a triple-double from him, 40 points from Jrue Holiday, just to be a depleted Celtics team. That damn,
you got a better chance of a Rihanna album coming out within the next 2 years than you do with James Harden winning.
Like I say, hopefully he can win in Philly with Joel Embiid. I truly want to see James Harden put a championship on his resume. However, with all that being said, and for the sake of this argument, and being realistic here, if he doesn't win with Joel Embiid, look at all the future Hall of Famers that I just named that James Harden played with. So you're telling me he's going to come back to Houston and deliver on a promise and deliver a championship with guys like Jalen and Jabari Smith and Alperen Sengun and Kevin Porter Jr. and all this other stuff? And there's no shot to them. They're just not at that stage in their career where they're fully developed in order to say, now we are at the point to win a championship. And by the way, just like the point I made earlier in terms of putting pieces around to continue developing these players, how is the return of James Harden is actually going to stunt the growth of Jalen Green or Kevin Porter Jr. or Tata Washington or whoever you want to be? Because when James comes back, we all know that James is going to be the focal point of the offense. And
so what you're saying is the Rockets is not a James Harden away from winning a championship.
Yes, they're not. And then too, and most importantly, let's say you bring James Harden back, and let's say he still has that same impact to say, yo, give me this all-star, give me that all-star. I want to take a chance with that all-star. And you gut your whole entire young core. What are you going to do in the next 4 to 5 years when James Harden is retired? And now you're starting back at square one, and you looking around the league, and Jalen is an all-star, Jabari is an all-star, Shagun is an all-star. Kind of similar to that team in Los Angeles that depleted their whole young roster for a broke up Anthony Davis. I understand they got a championship out of it, but it also took a bubble. And arguably, if not the greatest player of all time to deliver that championship at, what was he, like 34, 35 at that time? Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea for the Rockets.
So James, I'm gonna put it like this, and I've said this before on record on plenty of occasions, that I don't want James Harden back here. He will stunt the growth of these young players. He's going to come back and be he's not going to have the James Harden body, but he's not going to have the James Harden body or the game, but he's still going to have the James Harden mindset. And that's not good for the Rockets organization. Now, if I'm Tillman Fertitta and the owner of the Houston Rockets, I'm saying, but James makes money, right? Like, James is going to put butts in seats. People are going to come back just to see James. So you have to, you have to look at it. Are you looking at it from a winning aspect as far as the team is concerned? Or are you looking at it from a monetary aspect and how much money that you can make? So yes, I don't. Real quickly, before we move on, and because I know you got to go, but real quickly, so Kevin Porter Jr. has missed the last 17 games.
I miss him so much. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Right. And I miss him because I'm a Kevin Porter. I like Kevin Porter Jr. I like watching Kevin Porter Jr. play. I'm a fan of his game. I'm a fan of Kevin Porter Jr.'s game. So I like that. And I like the improvement that he did in the summer as far as he worked on other aspects of his game. And you saw that in the limited time that he had to play. I also like the fact that I see all these people on Twitter, the Rockets Twitter, crying now because they want him back. But when he was there, they were like, wait a minute, he sucks. He's our team. He's taken away from Şengün and blase that. Yeah, now you're 3-14 without him. You don't have a primary ball handler. You don't have nobody to run the, look, Cody, offense. So do we see Kevin Porter Jr. come back and win? Because this lingering, like, I didn't expect this injury. He even told us that he didn't expect this injury to last this long. He didn't know. He said he thought he'd have been to bounce back by now. But like, with 24 games left, do you bring him back and risk him getting hurt again?
I don't know. And I mean, Sarge, you could attest to this every week. Monday or Tuesday, I'm asking Silas, any update on KPJ? What's the update on KPJ? And the fact that every time I ask for an update, he always says he's still dealing with pain. That is the red flag for me. It's like, man, what started to be, a toe contusion. He was only supposed to be out for 1 week and then 2 weeks. By the way, I agree with that statement too. Tata should be playing more. Actually, I think Tata should be starting other than Jae'Sean Tate at point, but that's another conversation.
Yes, Jae'Sean Tate should be coming off the bench.
like he thrives in. Anyways,
Daisha Nick should be back in the G League. Right?
Hey man, not too much on Daisha, man. Hey, it is. Look, not too much on Daisha. But what I would say is this: going back to Kevin Porter Jr., 24 games left. Yesterday, Danielle from the Houston Chronicle did show a video of Kevin Porter Jr. going through a small pregame workout alongside John Lucas, and that was the first time that we've seen him in action. Now, of course, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but leading up to that point, I know the last time I asked Steven Silas about an update on KPJ, I believe it was last Wednesday, the last Wednesday when they lost to the Sacramento Kings, and he told me that he was still dealing with he was still experiencing pain, and they were waiting until after the All-Star break to see if they could get more information about his injury. With all that being said, I'm for my own selfish reasons, I'm hoping Kevin Porter Jr. comes back, but even if he does come back, I don't think it'll be a good idea because something is definitely wrong with that foot than what they originally thought. And two, and most importantly, I would hate to see him rush back, come back and play meaningless basketball and end up hurting that foot even worse. And now you're looking at a situation where it's going to hamper him throughout the offseason. And then if it hampers him throughout the offseason, how is that going to mess up his offseason workout program? Well, we saw over these last 2 years, when he goes into the offseason healthy, he comes back with something different in his game. I think
That's
Kevin
how
Porter
James Harden
Jr.
used to be too.
Yeah, I know, right, baby James. I honestly do think that Kevin Porter Jr. has shown the most growth out of all these players this year. You know, and I just want him to be healthy. Like I said, for my own selfish reason, I want to see him back. I'm not gonna lie. I got to the point where I look forward to watching him play basketball because you could see the potential, you could see the talent, you could see the work ethic. Everything is there. But then again, with that foot injury, you're talking about a franchise who has lost not one but two Hall of Fame players due to foot injuries. They should learn their lesson. And you know, I'm gonna say no at this point. And now you got to take a look into the situation into what went on with Jalen Green. I mean, you saw how bad that hamstring injury was on Wednesday night, and he went straight to the back, which wasn't a good sign. So, man,
And Jay Sean's ankle. So we'll
and
see.
Jay Sean ankle.
It's definitely something that we're gonna have to see. And with the I think the Rockets practice again next week coming off the All-Star break, and so we'll get a chance to hear what's going on. All right, Cody, I only have you for a couple of more minutes, so I want to move on and get your expertise. Well, hold on, let's answer Brandon's question just real quick. He said, "Do y'all think Jalen's hurt more than they think?" I do.
I do. And the only reason why I was really concerned about Jalen's hamstring injury, if you go back to a couple weeks ago when he had the calf contusion in his right thigh, and he came back in that Monday game, or was no the first game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because he got hurt against the Cleveland Cavaliers, if I'm not mistaken. He missed 3 games. And when he came back, we had an opportunity to talk to him. And he said that in that very first game, when they lost when they allowed the Thunder to score like 155 points. Jalen didn't really look like himself, which was expected because he was coming off injury or whatever. But when we were talking to Jalen said that he felt throughout the game he was putting a lot of pressure on his left leg. And Sarge, I don't know if you noticed, but throughout the last 10 to 12 days leading up to this groin injury, ironically on the left side, he kept wearing, something on his right leg. And unfortunately, I didn't really get a chance to ask him, was the right leg, how it was feeling or whatever the case might be. But I do remember him saying, and this was when we talked to him, that might have been after his second game back, and he was talking about how much pressure he had to put on his left leg. And here we are, like a week and a half later, he pulls a left groin injury. That's what makes me believe that Jalen might be more hurt than what we originally thought. Now, at the time of this recording, Stephen Silas did say that they're going to give Jalen Green an MRI when the team returns back to Houston, which should be at some point today in the afternoon. I don't know whenever you guys hear this, but it could be one of those hamstring injuries that can sideline him. I mean, I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be surprised if this turns into a Derek Stingley Jr. type of hamstring to where,
It could keep him out
severe
for the rest of the
enough.
season.
Yeah, it's severe enough and keep him out, for the rest of the season. And
Because it's gonna
the one thing I
okay.
love about former coach Lovie Smith, because we kept asking him, when is Stingley coming back? When Stingley coming back? When Stingley coming back? Lovie Smith came out and said, with a hamstring injury, you got to be really careful because you think you might be good, but it's not fully healed, and you make one wrong twist, one wrong turn, and next thing you know, you end up tearing it a lot more. Then you have another situation on your hand. So I don't know. I mean, it's sad that this season is definitely going to come down to not watching Jalen Green or Kevin Porter Jr. But I honestly do think that hamstring strain at the time, depending on what grade it is, it might be a little bit worse than what was initially thought.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said, and it's going to. I've messed my hamstring up before, and I thought that I could come back quicker than I could, and it just wasn't. So, but Cody, before you get out of here, man, I want to lean on your expertise because not only are you great at what you do as far as covering the Houston Rockets, you are also great at covering the NBA as a whole. And side note, I know that you like my brother, man, my little brother, but my brother and I pick on you a lot sometimes, but man, I do. I honestly and truly see the talent that you have, man. And you are more than just covering a local team. You're more, and what I mean by local team, I'm talking about a local professional team. You're more than just, covering the Texans. You're more than just covering the Rockets. I can see you on a national show, and I can see you more on an NBA show more than I can see you on a NFL show, only because I know the love that you have in your heart for the NBA. With that being said, now let me now that I gave you your flowers, don't expect that every time I see you either. But
Oh,
you did not just do that, bro. Me and you, we're gonna talk offline. We're gonna talk offline. But with that being said, Cody, I want to jump over into the NBA real quickly. I want to talk about this season, and I like I said, I know you got to go. I don't want to hold you up too long. But Cody,
take your time. Trust me.
Can you just tell me what the hell is going on with the NBA, man? It is by far one of the most boring things I have to watch. Cody, I'm not looking forward to watching the dunk contest. I am going to watch it because KJ is in it, and I want to talk to him about it after, and especially if he wins. Other than that, I'm skills. Jabari's in it. Like I actually have to work. If I didn't have to work, I wouldn't watch the All-Star game. I wouldn't watch nothing that has to do with the NBA this weekend. Cody, I would rather go out and sit in a field of bluebonnets and watch the damn NBA All-Star game. And that's only because, Cody, the only exciting thing that has happened is two things. It's two exciting things that has happened in the NBA for me this season that I could just be like, man, that was lit. One, LeBron James broke the all-time scoring record, so he is the NBA all-time scoring leader. And two, Memphis show up every night wanting that smoke to the point where they like, if you ain't gonna give me the smoke on the court, Indiana Pacers, watch this. Afterwards, watch your back. Look, the Memphis and the funny part about it is they're not a great team. They're an okay team.
Yeah, they are.
Like I understand, when the Detroit Pistons were the bad boys, like they were winning too. Like they wanted that smoke. They were some bullies on the court, but they were good.
Exactly.
When the 76ers and the Celtics used to get into it back in the day, they were good. When Dr. J was fighting Larry Bird, both those teams were good, so they wanted the smoke. The New York Knicks, when they were the Broadway bullies, they wanted that smoke, but they were good. You see what I'm saying?
They were good.
Even
and by the way, they also had players that you did not want to see on the street, like Charles Oakley. I don't want to see him on the streets.
Right. And so, look, when you look at, I'll even say this. At one point, the Charlotte Hornets were some bullies, but they were good. And so I could even go back to, Seattle Supersonics when they had the X-Men and the X, even before that, like the X-Men and all that. So as I digress, like if you want that smoke, you got to at least, back it up and be good. Like ain't no telling what y'all gonna do. Dylan Brooks, like ain't nobody scared of you, light skin. Ain't nobody scared of you. Like nobody's scared of you, Dylan Brooks. Bane, yes. We know. We got it. You do 100 curls. You do 125 bar dumbbell curls to make your arms look super big. Nobody care. There's only one real gangster on that entire team, and that's Steven Adams. That's it. He's the only gangster. Ja Morant. I am a huge Ja Morant fan. You're not gangster, bro. Now, the people you have around you may be gangster, but you ain't gangster. So when y'all show up and y'all always trying to start all this stuff and y'all want this smoke, maybe it's a distraction. Maybe they want us to think, to look at them being more as bullies than being good basketball players. Because in all honesty, the Memphis Grizzlies ain't nothing but a one-trick pony. Like they're Ja Morant. They're Ja and the Morants. You see what I'm saying? They're not the Memphis Grizzlies. And look, I'm saying all this because I know in a couple of weeks, you got to go to Memphis. Not me. So I'm saying all this. They're going to be like, hey, bro, let me talk to you for a second. Hey, that Big Sarge guy was talking a lot of noise. You wasn't stopping him. Come over here and shit. I'll be like,
Hey,
damn,
make
Cody on
sure
the
everywhere I
first.
go, I'm gonna have Square Kelly next to me
Look,
because they
I
are. The Memphis Grizzlies are my favorite scene in the Temptations. I'm David Ruffin, and these are the Temptations.
Cody, I feel like maybe I should go to Memphis with you now, so just so you won't end up on the first 48. But as I digress, Cody, what has happened to this game that we love, that we used to love so much?
Honestly, I honestly do think that this player empowerment movement has really started to have a negative impact on the game. Is that and injuries? First and foremost, when you take a look at the injuries, their injuries have really derailed a lot of what the NBA was banking on. I.e., I'm gonna go down to my hometown, New Orleans. You take a look at what Zion Williamson was doing before his injury. Once again, the
Waste
NBA,
of money.
yeah,
Sorry.
the NBA was really banking on him to stay healthy. And he has the potential, the talent, the the the
So did
the
Greg Oden.
the
Sorry.
the on court personality.
So did Greg Oden.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Look, I'm not stopping you. Everything that you're saying is not wrong. What was New Orleans at the time he got injured? What was it, like 23 and like 13 or whatever the case might be? Like they
Alvarado was
were.
running around like he was the
It was
Hispanic version of Dylan Brooks. I'm sorry, my bad.
man, like they was ascending towards the top, and now he has a hamstring injury. And not only does he have a hamstring injury, he has re-aggravated the hamstring injury. And they said that he could be out at even longer after the All-Star break. I say all that just to say injuries have derailed what the season could have been due to stars like Zion Williamson. When you take a look at Los Angeles, Anthony Davis, who is a phenomenal talent when healthy, phenomenal talent. But when healthy, when is he ever healthy? A couple weeks ago, the man jumped in the air, tweaked his foot while in the air, and was out damn near 5 to 6 weeks. Come on now, man. Um, Injuries. Look at Golden State. Look at Steph Curry. I mean, Saturday night was a game. Lakers versus Warriors. In your mind, you're expecting to see Steph versus Braun. Neither one of them was on the court.
You saw Anthony Lamb versus Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, then in the re-debut of D'Angelo Russell, who is probably going to be going from Los Angeles again this offseason. So it's just like injuries has really hampered the season. Player empowerment movement, all of this play load management and stuff, like I that's really has hurt the product. Like a national televised game between the Clippers and the Nuggets, and Jokic is load management. Um, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is load management. So you telling me you got to bank on Jamal Murray? No disrespect to him, but he hasn't been bubble Jamal Murray since the end of the bubble. But you banking on Jamal. Matter of fact, Jamal Murray was out that game for load management as well. Like the player empowerment movement has really took a turn for the worse. And not only that, in terms of player empowerment movement, it also hurt a lot of teams that people wanted to see good, i.e. the Brooklyn Nets. Like people wanted this to work between KD and Kyrie. They wanted Brooklyn to be the premier team in the NBA. They wanted Brooklyn to be battling in the Eastern Conference with the Celtics and potentially in the NBA Finals with the Los Angeles Lakers. That's a dream scenario that's going to draw people to the NBA. Unfortunately, Kyrie goes to be Kyrie. Kevin Durant, that's phenomenal. And I'm starting to get concerned about KD. As phenomenal as it seems like every time he is playing to the KD that he was in Golden State, to the KD that everybody loved in Oklahoma City Thunder, he gets hurt at the worst time. And now neither one of them are in Brooklyn. I understand all of it isn't on the faults of KD and Kyrie. I understand there's a lot of things going on with the organization internally. And here in the city of Houston, I think we can all agree a bad organization does not make up for great talent. I think we can all agree to that standpoint.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, you still can't deny the fact that Kyrie did not hold his end of the bargain. It's part of the reason why that situation in Brooklyn didn't work out. It's just
can I let me jump in here for a second because you mentioned Kyrie, and one of the questions that I want to ask you, and we can get back to it, but one of the questions I want to ask you since you brought up Kyrie, and do you think that it's going to work with him and Luca in Dallas?
No, it didn't work on him and Brian in Cleveland. It didn't work on him in a
They got
rising
a ring in Cleveland
Jalen.
though. They
Yeah,
got a ring.
that's the worst part about it.
They
He
would have
got
had
that.
they would
Not
have had two
only
if he doesn't get hurt. If he
not
doesn't get hurt, they have two
not
rings.
only did he get a ring in Cleveland, you can say what you want about whether or not he gets hurt or not, whatever the case might be. In the words of former coach Lovie Smith, we talking about hypotheticals. I don't like talking about hypotheticals, but
Oh,
at the end of the
divorce
day,
is a good thing.
the divorce is a good thing. At the end of the day, not only did he get a ring in Cleveland, but he was playing with LeBron James. Say what you want about LeBron, but I think we can all agree if he ain't your GOAT, he's your second or third GOAT, no lower than number 3. It didn't work out in Cleveland. So what makes you think it's going to work in Boston? You go to Boston, you have your quote unquote own team. You don't want to make it work with the young guys. Then you go to Brooklyn. And you go to Brooklyn with your so-called best friend. And look what you end up doing. And by the way, your best friend is Kevin Durant, who in my opinion, he is a top 20
No,
player of all
no,
time. So now you go to
hell,
Dallas. You didn't
no,
make it work with LeBron. You
Cody,
didn't make it work with
no,
KD. What the hell make you think he gonna make it work with Luka?
Cody, no. I gotta stop you. I gotta stop you because it didn't work in Brooklyn, not because of Kyrie, because of upper management.
Yeah, and that's why I prefaced my statement in the words of Big Sarge. That's why I prefaced my statement that bad management doesn't make up for great talent. And like I said, I understand there's a lot of internal stuff going on with that organization. However, you cannot deny the fact that on multiple occasions, Kyrie didn't want to play just because he didn't want to play. You
But that
can't
was
deny
because
the
hold on, wait, Cody,
and
wait, wait.
I'm not looking at the fact that he didn't want to get vaccinated or not. I'm looking at the stuff prior to COVID and everything else in between.
What happened though, Cody? Like, because I used to be a Brooklyn Nets fan, right? Now I'm not I may be a Suns fan here. Right now, I got another team. I'm not gonna say who it is right now, but I was a diehard Brooklyn, not diehard, but I was a Brooklyn Nets fan because KD was in Brooklyn. Cody, when it was just Kyrie and KD, even though KD didn't play because when he first got there, he was injured, no problem. Kyrie didn't sign up to play with James Harden. Kyrie didn't sign up to play with Ben Simmons. So when you take that into consideration and you bring in two people, first of all, Kyrie made the Nets relevant. That's the first thing. Then he got KD to come and made him more relevant. So now you got KD and you got Kyrie. Why the hell are you bringing James Harden? Especially when one person wants him, one person doesn't. So now what does it look like? Well, KD say it's cool. Kyrie say he don't want him. Well, we're going to go with KD. Yeah, but I'm the reason why KD is here. Okay, and we know that I will say this. I know that Kyrie is temperamental. I understand that, right? I understand he's temperamental. He can be territorial sometimes, but you do that. Then the organization goes out to without the approval, and then what I said, without the approval, they don't have to get the approval, but you also want to have your star players on board because when the Golden State Warriors brought in Kevin Durant, when they signed Kevin Durant, the people who went to the Hamptons was Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, was Iggy. I think Iggy was there, but I know that those three went. The nucleus went. Those three. Then you had the owner, you had the GM, and you had Steve Kerr. All of those people were on board with bringing in KD. Fast forward to the Nets. Oh, they weren't on board with bringing in Ben Simmons. They weren't on board with bringing in James Harden. I understand you want to make a big three, but they were not on board with bringing in. So once you have that, now what have you done? I will give you the Boston situation when it comes to Kyrie. He was very toxic there. Very toxic. Cleveland, it's kind of, yeah, because you still have a young Kyrie, and there's no possible way you're going to say that LeBron James is not coming back to Cleveland. You lost your damn mind. We will change the state of Ohio to James to get him back. Do you know what LeBron James does to the economy? I don't give a damn how stupid Dan Gilbert was and what the letter that he wrote after LeBron left on his own during free agency. Like he was a free agent. He could go wherever he wanted to go. But to bring him back, okay. And there was a time that I honestly and truly, and I still believe it, that Kyrie and Kevin Love doesn't get hurt. They beat the Warriors in that first series. That first finals, they beat them. Because when they come back healthy, what happened? So them boys had to go out and get KD in order to beat. If they don't have KD, they play 4 times. Am I correct?
Mhm.
They play 4 times. They don't go get KD. Cleveland could have potentially beat them 3-1, or at least it'd be 2-2. But you went out, you got the LeBron killer and KD, who, like, bro, this boy's coming across half court. LeBron was picking him up, and there was nothing LeBron could do. Like, there was nothing LeBron could do with KD. So, as I digress, going back to Kyrie. In Brooklyn, it did not work because part Kyrie, part the organization. I believe that it can work in Dallas.
No, it can't, Sarge.
And I
No,
know
it
people like,
can't.
even like, it's not enough basketball to go around. It can work. Now, it can work in Dallas. Now, ask me, do I think he's going to be in Dallas?
Do you think he's gonna be in Dallas?
Hell no. He going to play with LeBron and Bronny. Whenever
See?
Bronny decides to
See? That's
come
why.
to the Lakers.
That's
He's
why,
going to
like,
the Lakers, bro.
Kyrie, of course he is. And look, Kyrie is a phenomenal talent. I think we had this conversation, like skill for skills.
Or he
I
could come to
mean,
the Rockets. But go ahead. What?
no, please no.
Ah,
No.
love him.
I don't just no, no.
You wouldn't want to see
Um,
Kyrie with the Rockets?
I mean, if we don't have to talk to Kyrie, then sure.
You ever talked to Kyrie?
Uh-uh.
You ain't never,
Unfortunately, I haven't. I haven't
you
yet.
haven't been in the same room with Kyrie, have you?
Mm-mm.
Here's the funny part, and I didn't mean to cut you off. Here's the funny part about Kyrie. So, like, when you're around players, like I've been around players, like I've been around Kobe Bryant once. I've been around Michael Jordan. Like, there's this certain aura that they have about them. It's a different type of energy. Only certain people have it. KD ain't got it. James Harden don't have it. Steph Curry don't have it. Kevin Garnett has it. LeBron James have it. You been in the room with LeBron James?
Yeah, I was standing right there studying over my question.
That's right. So you didn't feel that energy that LeBron has?
I
Like, there's
felt
certain people that has that energy.
I felt
Kyrie has
greatness.
Kyrie has that energy, bro. And I'm just gonna be honest with
Mhm.
you. Kyrie has that, and I'm not saying we're not, because of the sage or whatever he believes in, or even his greatness. But that same feeling I felt, that aura that I felt being around Kobe, is that same energy I felt being around Kyrie. So I would love to be around Kyrie because I like that energy. I like that brashness about him.
No,
So to the Lakers, though, right?
of course, to the Lakers. I don't know why Dallas made that trade. I just don't understand.
Hey, look.
Phenomenal talent though, but man,
Okay, so real quickly, what do you think about the Suns with adding KD?
if they could stay healthy, once again, health is going to come down to Chris Paul and how much of his age is he going to show. Unfortunately, that has been a continuous circle around him. Majority of his whole entire career in health, but now you also got to take a look at health and age.
But Booker too. Booker has injury.
Yeah, but this is like Booker's like first real injury season.
Well, didn't he get hurt in the finals last year?
I don't remember.
Booker got
To
hurt.
be honest with you, I
And
really don't remember.
KD is injury prone. So
Yeah,
I guess, like you
but like I
said,
say, if those guys stay healthy, and you got to take into consideration that they still have DeAndre Ayton, don't know how in the world they still making that work. I think Phoenix could be a dangerous team.
last question I have for you, Cody. Brooklyn Nets. We talked a lot about the Brooklyn Nets. I honestly and truly believe that the Brooklyn Nets got better by getting rid of Kyrie and KD. I feel like they are going to make the playoffs, and they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. And I don't mean going to like the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't mean that, but they're going to surprise a lot of teams. And the reason why I say that is because this is the problem that I have. You know me, LeBron James is my GOAT, but KD is my favorite NBA player. This is the problem that I had with KD being in Brooklyn. He endorsed the hiring of Steve Nash. They don't never hire Steve Nash. They get what they have right now. Jock Vaughn is a damn good coach. Jock Vaughn should have had that job way before Steve Nash had that job. And as soon as Jock Vaughn took over that job, what happened? The Brooklyn Nets turned into a basketball team. And you look at them now, they don't have any big name stars on that team. They got a lot of dudes who want to hoop. And they got a lot of guys who want to hoop. And they have a lot of guys that's being led by a coach who still loves to hoop and who knows the game. Who Jock Vaughn was a very good college player. He was a very good point guard. He knows the game. He knows how to draw up the X's and the O's. Now, I'm not taking nothing away from Steve Nash, but we all know that Steve Nash was a product of Mike D'Antoni's system. We know that. I don't think Steve Nash can be Jock Vaughn one-on-one in their primes. I just don't. I think that Jock Vaughn is a way better basketball player. So now you have Jock Vaughn as the coach, and you see what they're doing. Like I said, they're not, going to step onto the court, and I don't think they could beat the Celtics in a 7-game series. I don't think that they could beat the Milwaukee Bucks in a 7-game series. I do believe that they could beat the 76ers in a 7-game series and anybody after that as far as the Eastern Conference is concerned. I do believe that they can do that. I do believe that they can take Boston to 6 games. I do believe that they could take the Bucks to 6 games because they have a coach that doesn't look at, I don't give a damn who the superstar is or think they are. We finna run these plays and we finna hoop. But what do you think about the Brooklyn Nets? That's the last question I have for
you. That they have veteran players who wants to hoop. Plain and simple. I don't see them beating the 76ers. I honestly don't see them getting out of the first round. But what I would say is whoever they play in the first round is going to be a dogfight. That's the team that they got now reminds me of the team that they should have kept. That team with Spencer Dinwiddie and D'Angelo Russell, and the rest of those young guys. Like that's what they remind me of. And
then that was the bubble. That was that bubble team, right?
No, that was a team after the bubble.
After the bubble.
But was it the team? No, it wasn't. Because Kyrie and them was there already when the bubble started. So that was the team before that when they took the 76ers to 7 games. So I want to say that was the 19 season, I want to say. Yeah, because that was KD's last year in Golden State. Then that offseason, they did that sign and trade for D'Angelo Russell. So that's what the Brooklyn Nets reminds me of. And I see a lot of people pointing and laughing. Oh my God, the Rockets have all these pip swaps with the Brooklyn Nets and whatever the case might be. I honestly don't think that the Rockets are going to be able to utilize those pick swaps because they're going through their rebuilds with veterans and they're going through their rebuilds with talents. Not only that, especially if they can move off that contract with Ben Simmons, they're also going to have the most capital, the most money to spend in free agency. So you got a good head coach. You're in Brooklyn, New York once again. You putting together a very good foundational piece. I could see that team making a run in free agency and bringing in some very good players, unlike what's going on here with the city of Houston, because they're not saying, you know what, let's get rid of all our veteran players. Let's get rid of all our talents and bank on drafting all these young prospects and hope to be Oklahoma City Thunder 2.0 with KD in them. They're not doing that. I can see the Brooklyn Nets going through a very successful rebuild, unlike what's going on here in the city of Houston.
Wow. All right. Hold on for a second, Cody, before you get ready to leave.
I mean, I don't have to go far to show my love for this man at all. I ain't got to, you see me and this man got a connection. Like he know Off the Wall is there. He know Off the Wall is your favorite album. Rock With You your favorite song. So he like, Cody, just put this there so you could flash to the camera for the time being.
Cody, that is my favorite, bro. That rock with you. That is my favorite Michael Jackson song. And what was second? Not PYT. What's the one that he did with Marsha Ambrose and
Butterflies.
yeah, Butterflies and Man in the Mirror. That's my top three
Yeah.
Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, my top three Michael Jackson song is Human Nature, PYT, and Baby Be Mines, man. All on the Thriller album, baby. Man, that album. After all, is technically my third favorite Michael Jackson album. And I only say that because when you take a look at his creativity in Thriller and Bad, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Man.
but yeah, Michael
I
Jackson.
mean, the
Hey,
fact
look.
that
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the fact that, like, first of all, real quick about Michael. I think another thing that like I love most about Michael is like when you
Did
see
you just
him
look at a Michael
analyze.
Jackson poster? You
Yeah,
did not just turn your head.
I got the bad poster cover right there, and the Thrillers in the living room. But I was just saying, like,
wait,
when
you do
you,
not have a poster of Michael Jackson in your bedroom.
I thought it was right there on my side of the bed, right there. I will show you, but I got like other stuff right there. Like I said, he's always like,
Cody,
right there.
Wait, hold on. This is Sports Talk with Big Sarge, and that means that and since me being Big Sarge is my show, I run it how I want to run it, right? Cody, are you telling me when you doing the do with your wife, Michael Jackson is in the room with you?
Hey man, he's always in the room.
Do you feel like you're bad when you're doing the do?
No, you gotta make
this
sure.
This is where the magic happened with me and Mike.
No, man,
Well, if you tell me you put on a glove,
Michael. That's the thing with Michael. He got like certain music you can always go to. So when it comes to that time,
you gotta. Let me find out. You gotta.
Lady in my life, man.
A glove on one of Michael Jackson gloves before you get ready. Like, girl, you know what's coming.
No, but I was just saying, man. The one thing, like his creativity between Thriller and Bad was just unmatched, man.
Yeah.
And I say his creativity because, for fun, a lot of times I like to like break down music and lyrics. But most of his songs, it's like, what the hell are you even talking about? But it's just the mood, the vibe, then with the videos, like the man lean, bro. The man lean. And he leaned 40 years ago. We're still talking about it today. Like, come on. The man turned into a whole monster and we're still talking about it today. Like, come on, man. Like,
the man even pretended to have kids, and we're still talking about it today.
Yeah, unfortunately. You talking about the only thing that I just feel like, come on, Mike. Come on, Mom.
You ain't got a lot of kicking, Mike. You ain't got a lot of kicking. Hey, wait, hold on. Let me put this up real quick. Look what this says. Cody Jones, Billy G. Hey, so wait. Man. With that being said, real quick, thumbs up or thumbs down for the halftime show? And don't say it just because you know what I was saying. You really like the halftime show.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit disappointed, but
what do you put in the top 10?
Would I put it in the top 10?
Would you put it in the top 10? Who had a better performance, Rihanna or Lady Gaga?
I want to go with Rihanna because I like Rihanna.
Yeah, I know.
Because you always say I have like I always lean towards my bias side. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I really did enjoy. Which I never did like. Not ever like not like Lady Gaga. Like a lot of her songs were like, okay, I could vibe to this. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Lady Gaga, bro. And listen, I like Rihanna.
And you know how I feel about Rihanna. That's my girl, man.
Watching the halftime performance, I realized I knew more Rihanna songs than I thought I knew.
I told you that was gonna happen.
But that's how it was with Lady Gaga too. I was like, wait a minute. Oh wow, I do know more. So I just use that because like I dare not put her up there. I dare not compare her with Prince or Bruno Mars and Beyonce. I'm not putting her up there with that. Oh, Katy Perry. I look.
Katy Perry was fun. Katy Perry was a fun artist.
Look, I don't even know if I could put Rihanna's performance past Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson.
A lot of people sleep on that. That was a really good performance if you take away what took place the last 3 seconds of that performance. Like, that was really good.
You gonna
It
put
was a really good performance. Like, go back and watch it.
was it Bruno Mars, Beyonce?
No, I think Bruno, that is crazy because they wasn't even the headliner. That Super Bowl, I got that as possibly number 3, number 4 on my list.
Yeah.
That was just
Do you have
phenomenal to
Princess
watch
number
it.
1?
I got Prince number 2. You already know Michael number 1. I
Prince
feel like
number-
you have to put Michael number 1 because if he don't do it in '93, we're not having this discussion right now.
Bro, Prince sung Purple
Purple
Rain.
Rain in the rain, and then with
I never wanted to be
his symbol on the ground, it made the rain come down as purple. I get it, I understand all that. You know, I love Prince, but at the end of the day, I don't think we're talking about none of this if Michael doesn't do what he did in '93. Case closed.
Hold on. See what that says.
Yeah, Prince number 1. Okay, like I say, the only thing that makes Prince number, once again, that's my.
We're not
second.
talking about who's
That's
the
my
Prince
second.
that got other performers. We talking about best performances.
Yeah, and I'm putting Michael up there. Like,
performance-wise?
Yes, like I'm thinking about the performance as I put it like this, bro. Put it like, which is another great performance, by the way. I got the DVD. I will show you, but it's in the other room. But put it like this: to me, the fact that the man took his time with his halftime performance, because you know they only get like a certain amount of time. The fact that he went over, I think it's everything that led up to the performance. It's that because with him coming out on stage, standing there, turning his head for a whole minute, people in the NFL was freaking out because they pushed them behind schedule. Your Dallas Cowboys said players was like, oh my God, that's Michael Jackson. Like, and then the whole performance itself, the way it starts with him going through some of his greatest hits. And like I mentioned, man, without him, we're not having none of these discussions.
Prince stood up there with a headscarf on.
Yes, he did. You ain't got to describe it to me.
With his guitar.
The electric guitar that I got to add. Like I say,
in the rain.
In the rain, singing Purple Rain. And the people who was there says the stage that he lit up, that he was standing on, the way, of course, it's lighting up in purple, made the rain come down like it was purple. I get it. I understand all that. By the way, outside of games, I do think top 3, whatever order you want to put them in, Michael and Prince halftime performances and Whitney Houston's national anthem performance, top 3 outside of the game itself moments in Super Bowl history.
Where would you put Marvin Gaye's national anthem?
Second behind Whitney. I don't think nobody touching Whitney.
So where you putting Carl Lewis's?
3 and the Rockets.
And barely be that Roseanne bar.
And the Rockets.
Oh. Hey, Cody Davis, Sports Illustrated, beat writer for the Houston Rockets, man. Tell them where they can find you at.
You can find me and all of my work. Easiest way and best way to find me is on Twitter at Cody Davis _24. Once again, that's Cody COTY DAVIS _24. Why 24? Because Kobe Bryant is my GOAT. Plain and simple.
Why?
Hey, people want to know what the 24 stand for.
You know, even though we're doing this live, I can edit that. I'm just gonna
go ahead. It used to be 83, but I decided to change it to 24.
What was 83 for?
The year Thriller became Thriller and when Mike really became Mike.
You got a problem.
Hey, Thriller came out November 29th, 1982, but it didn't really blow up until 83.
Hey, before you go, if you have a child, what are you gonna name your child?
I don't know.
If it's a boy.
I honestly don't know. I'm weighing those options, and then gotta make sure what the other half wants. So I don't know.
Hey man, thank you for joining me, man. Can you also drop where they can hear your Texans work?
And you could listen to Locked On Texans on the daily with me and my co-host John Hickman at Locked On Texans on all your favorite podcast streaming services and on YouTube as well.
I can't believe you gave Rihanna the thumbs up and she had sperm on the field and dancing on platforms. ASAP Rocky sperm at that.
And that's why she got another one on the way.
Thank you all for joining this Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast and live show. You can find me at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end on Instagram and on Twitter. Follow me at Brian Fairfield on Facebook, Big Sarge. And make sure you're subscribed to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. And go to YouTube so you can go back and rewatch how Cody M. Davis just lost his credentials for talking about Raphael Stone. Hey, man, look, I appreciate it. I'm not going to do that. Peace. I always do. I'm out.